Today's episode is sponsored by SaveLaney.com. Insurance Nerds and Profiles in Risk is currently engaging in a fundraiser to raise money for a service dog named Laney, who has been diagnosed with cancer. This service dog is absolutely crucial to one of our friends, an insurance adjuster by the name of Alexander. We would really appreciate your support. Learn more at SaveLaney.com. The question I have for you: what if your pet was more than a pet? What if your pet was also a key part of the family, which they are? What if they were also a key part of your ability to function successfully at work and at life? That is what a service animal is. And it's not an easy process to replace Laney. If the treatment didn't go well, it's not only the financial cost of replacing her, this is an incredibly emotional, difficult situation for any pet owner. And Laney, as a service animal, is so much more than a pet. Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me Caden Braly. I practiced this. Caden Braly, CEO of AgentsTech. Caden, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going really good, man. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you. Business is going pretty good.
Fantastic. So we are recording on Friday, June 23rd. And actually, Caden and I chatted a couple days ago because I accidentally sent him the wrong Calendly link for the podcast recording. So he ended up with a half an hour meeting where really we should use an hour meeting for a podcast recording. So anyway, we chatted for a little bit, and I'm very excited for what you guys are doing. I think this is deeply necessary. So and then we were just chatting just now before starting to record, and when I asked him how it's going, he's like, "We have business coming out of our ears, basically."
Yeah.
So which is the same state where I'm in right now in my recruiting practice. So this is a good Friday for both of us.
Yeah, it is.
I do have to say, as I was saying, CEO of AgentsTech, I did have a little bit of an internal chuckle because you look roughly 22 years old.
I'm 24.
Which in our industry, very rare. I have one other founder who founder of an Insurtech, Wesley at Sola, and I met him at ITC a couple of years ago, and at that time he was 19. He couldn't even drink.
Wow.
And we just, and brilliant guy. We just again hung out at Insurtech Insights in New York, and I was like, by my calculations, I think this is the first conference where you're over 21. And he's like, yeah, but don't tell anyone. Age is a thing in our industry. It's hard for anybody to trust you if you're under 40. I'm 40 now, and I still think that the industry sees me as a teenager, maybe not a child anymore. So just don't shave. You're looking
if I shaved, I look like I'm about 12 years old. So I've had this beard. Funny story. So my wife has never seen me without a beard. I've had a beard since I was 17. So
okay, keep that for now. Next like 15 years in insurance. So normally I break the ice a little bit over the weather. It looks like you're in Dallas, so I'm guessing it's like 300 degrees already.
yeah,
are you like
102?
102. Oh yeah, I just wouldn't leave home basically for the next 3 months. That's my in Atlanta. I just don't leave home.
We always tell people like that live up in like Northeast or the North during the winter, whenever it gets cold there and you stay inside, you really don't go out much. It's the same thing here, but summer, like it gets to a point that if it gets over, I think it's 102 or 101, that like all sports, you can't do any sort of high school sports or training outside at all. So
okay, that sounds like fun. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. What is AgentsTech?
Yeah, so AgentsTech, I'll give the elevator pitch and then I'll give kind of a background of how things started. So AgentsTech is an Insurtech consulting firm that goes into independent insurance brokerages. And we kind of have a process that we've created to help implement or find and implement Insurtech solutions for that agency to help solve their agency problems or the issues. So we kind of merged together technology consulting and business consulting into one, because we saw that there was a massive need, and that just going out an individual, an agent going out and finding an Insurtech solution for something, um, does not always have the best benefit, because maybe they don't know how to implement it within their current processes or many other things. But so what we do, kind of back on track, is we go into those agents. We don't really work with captive, State Farm, Farmers, and Allstate. We stick with independent insurance brokerages all over the United States. We go in and we have a really, I'm going to say, a heart-to-heart conversation about their agency, what's going wrong, what are the issues, what are the things that wake you up in the middle of the night and you have anxiety about because you can't seem to figure out. Then, after we have those specific characteristics and needs within their agency figured out, we have another 4-step process. The first process is recommendation. So we go out, just how an insurance broker goes to the market and finds the perfect insurance policy for an insured. We go out to the market to find the perfect Insurtech solutions that really solve the needs of the agent. So that's step one. Step two is strategize. So an Insurtech platform software that does not have a good strategy of how to implement it and use it within your agency, within the current processes and workflows of your agency, is going to fail eventually. It's not a matter of if, but when is it going to fail? Because a lot of Insurtech companies, they say, here's our Insurtech, fit your agency within this Insurtech. What we do is we say, okay, here's the agent, let's fit the Insurtech into the agent's processes to make sure that they work well. And when we do that, we've had some of our customers say, hey, I think this would be a good idea. What do you know about this? And I say, hey, based off of what we've kind of figured out within your agency, that might not be a really good fit for you. Maybe we should go to this other solution, or maybe we should say, hey, your problem's not actually X, it's Y. And we figure out another way to do that. So that's step two, is that's where we really combine the tech consulting and the business consulting. And then sometimes we even have to go and create those workflows and processes for the agent, in a true sense of a business consultant. Step three is what we call the implementation and integration phase. This is more of a administrative role. We sit on the phone calls with them, with the Insurtech companies. We answer their questions if they have, some, hey, I still don't understand how this works, or hey, how do I integrate this into my current systems? How do we get this Insurtech to talk with all of our systems? That's the best we can say, is like, how do we get the company XYZ to talk to our CRM or our AMS or whatever else we use? Or how do we integrate our phone system with the new AMS that you recommended, and all that fun stuff. We can do that within our current company. We do it. And then we also have a third party integration consultant that will come in and basically build out whatever they need for all that process. And then the back end, the fourth phase, which is probably the most important, is the training phase. So Insurtechs, not a lot of them really like to train people. It's not a big issue. It's a non-revenue producing activity that they really have to do. There's no way around it, right? Because if you don't train, there's not going to be any retention, and then the agent's going to be really angry because the thing that they thought was going to solve all their problems just doesn't work. So we provide third-party training to the individual agent and their employees on how to really use the system. And the cool thing about what we do is that we kind of can point out some individual employees that maybe aren't using the technology like they should be. And then we will have like one-on-one meetings with them, asking them really like deep questions like, hey, why aren't you using this? And then we can kind of determine, hey, it's a pride thing. We've been doing this the same way. We've been doing insurance this way, and I like it this way, and I don't want to change. Or we've had some agents that said, oh, I'm scared to use it because it's really overwhelming. I don't really know a lot about technology. And those are the individuals like, all right, let's sit down. Let's kind of walk through this at your own pace and kind of see what we can do to make sure that you really do use this, because Insurtechs are valuable tools, but they have to become valuable tools within an agency. And that's kind of what we help do, is recommend, train, and implement.
Okay. So I have lots of questions about what
Yeah.
you guys do. But let's start with the elephant in the room, which I alluded to with you being looking 19 and a half. Um, so agency principals, median age is like 50.
Yeah.
Um, so why, this is my baby. I've spent 30 years building this thing. Yeah, it's a little right. It's not super modern, and maybe the book has been declining recently. We've had a hard time retaining account management CSRs. We've had a hard time finding new producers. Uh, I know that I have to invest in technology, but why would I trust? You're like just out of college. Why would I trust you with something so important for my agency?
Yep. Yeah. So I get that question a lot, and I've had it so much that I know exactly how to answer it every single time. So I am also, along with being the CEO of AgentsTech, I'm also the vice president of business development for the Braly Insurance Group, which is our family-owned insurance brokerage based in Dallas. We have offices in about 15 different states, and we do business in about 25 different states, so half of the states. Um, when I came on about 4 years ago. Our agency was really at a stagnant place. We were not really, for every two policies that we sold, we lost three because there's bigger brokerages out there that have more access to more markets. Some of them have better risk management placement services and things like that available. So it was just a thing of we really couldn't compete. By that time, we were also just became independent from Nationwide Captive. So in 2016, we went captive commercial, and in 2020, when everyone else went captive or went independent, that's when obviously we broke off 100%. So we're very new to the independent game as of 2016. We really kind of hit the ground running. And when I came in about 4 years ago, I realized, okay, this industry is archaic, as you said. It's old. It is easily 20 years behind every other industry. Like if you want to compare it to the like fintech or the finance industry, they are light years ahead of us. And even then, they're light years ahead of us, but they have more regulation, like government regulation, than insurance does. So it's kind of like, okay, what the heck is going on here? And then I realized, oh, just go Google, like, hey, I need something to do this for my insurance brokerage. And it will pull up some companies. I'm like, oh, these are interesting. And so we had started onboarding technologies to help us solve problems. So our current insurance agency that I'm still a part of, I'm still a producer, I still sell home and auto every now and then, and I do a lot of commercial stuff. We have onboarded about 28 or 29 Insurtech companies within our agency. And since we have onboarded that, we have seen a growth in our agency of 25 to 30% year over year for the last 4 years since we started that. And there's a direct correlation from the time we started implementing the Insurtech to that correlation of the growth. And it is consistently 25 to 30% year over year premium increase. So that's what I would say is like, don't look at my age, look at the numbers, and they
Perfect.
kind of
So
show themselves.
it reminds me a lot of uh, there was one kid who went through Nationwide's financial leadership rotation program,
Yep.
carrier side with me. Uh, and I kind of failed out of the program. Turns out if you can't do math, you can't do finance. But this kid did really well, and he went on to be at like 25 years old to create an Insurtech. And
Wow.
I won't say who it is. The Insurtech isn't doing particularly well, but I don't think it's his fault. But anyway, he was a very, very young CEO. Uh,
Mhm.
however, like because I know him from beforehand, I also know that his dad was COO of one of the carriers in Columbus, Ohio, for not Nationwide, but one of the other carriers for this guy's whole childhood. He interned there when he was like 12. Anyway, he grew up in insurance, right?
Right.
So a whole different understanding of insurance than those of us who started, at 27, 28, whatever, after college, right? So similar story. You grew up in the agency one way or another.
Yeah.
And right, that was the kitchen table conversation, etc. And I do think it's super interesting how so old agency, but newly independent.
Mhm.
So perfect opportunity for dad and grandpa and whoever else in the family is in charge to be open-minded to really reinvent the agency. So
Yep.
fertile ground for you to come in and actually run with experimenting with stuff. And good job being successful at it and then scaling it to other businesses. So for your own agency, this is pure curiosity, for your own agency, out of the 28, 29 Insurtechs that you've implemented, and I don't care so much about which company you used, but which type of tools are the two or three that made the big, and I think every agency listening knows that their problems are different than what your problems were. But for you guys, what were the two or three types of tools that really made a huge difference? Was it like the CRM? What was it? The AMS? Was it uh, better forms and what's it called, supplemental? Like which tools really made a huge difference quickly?
Yeah, so I would say the number one that we saw is we found some really good lead generation sources. Some that were a couple that they're inbound leads that at the moment are closing at about 50 to 60%.
Holy crap! I hear so many complaints about leads being worthless.
Yeah,
Uh,
we found a few that we were like, this is an absolute gold mine.
okay, so
And
the right lead
in
providers.
Yeah, leads providers is probably definitely the number one. Number two, I would say, is a CRM managing. We used to manage all of our customers directly through our AMS. We have branched that out to a separate CRM to where we can kind of separate the two out of the CRM is new business incoming prospects. The AMS is current prospects, things like that. So having that separation of the two to where the CRM can delegate marketing automation, email automation, sending quotes, things like that. That separation has been big. And I'd say the third I'd say it's probably, yeah, the supplementals. Our agency, the Braly Insurance Group, we do a good amount of small business surplus accounts. So having something to where instead of sending a PDF, a fillable PDF to a customer for their renewal, I can already have all their previous year's data in a system and say, hey, answer these few questions for your renewal. It sends it to them. They answer it like a form on the like a questionnaire, and then it sends it right back to me, and that's done. That saved us a ton of time, like tons of time. And then a,
For
a,
experience.
a fourth one that kind of equal there with supplemental would probably have to be commercial rater as well. Small business commercial rater has been really, really helpful for us.
Okay. Okay. So there's 20 some tools that worked for you guys. What are my agencies completely different? Like how do you handle number one, being familiar with enough different CRMs, enough different this, enough different that, to help me choose which one's right for me?
Yeah. So we have between me, our COO, Mark, and our strategic partnership manager, Casey, those are the three main people that work with AgentsTech. We have had over, I think it's 125 calls, demos with different Insurtech providers. So majority of what we do, we say, okay, hey, maybe this isn't going to work for our agency, but this is good to know and good to develop a relationship. So if we do come in with a customer that say needs a massive grade AMS system, large scale AMS system, we know where to go. We've already developed that relationship and have that individual in our back pocket to say, hey, I got a client that is really needing a new AMS system. They're growing rapidly, but their current AMS system is just not cutting it. So we've had conversations with tons of Insurtech companies that we kind of know, hey, this is what we do. We actually have a whole document of like a couple of sentences worth of kind of their overview, what they do, what they specialize in, who are the Insurtechs target market customers so that we know, okay, this would be a very viable option for them. So we've we have, like I said, we've talked to about 125 Insurtech companies, and we are consistently researching new companies that are up and coming, ones that we haven't heard of, ones that maybe in multiple industries that maybe, okay, so maybe they're not P&C insurance, but they're health insurance or they're life insurance, or they're kind of bridging the gap between, like there was one, I think in 101 Weston Labs I looked up yesterday that I'm going to schedule a meeting with that does jewelry appraisals via phone. And I thought that is a fantastic idea, because this last week I was quoting three homes, and each of them had a ring that was above like $30,000 a piece. And I was like, and they said, oh, I don't have an appraisal. And I was like, oh gosh. But stuff like that. So we're always researching.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so what about so for the recommendations piece?
Mhm.
How do you learn about my agency? Okay, so I give you a call. I'm like, hey, I think we need help. What does the process look like? Are you flying in to meet with our team? Do you do it all by Zoom? Are there both options? Like what does the getting to know me process look like?
Yeah, so it does depend on what you prefer. We really recommend doing Zoom because, to be honest with you, Zoom is much more efficient and saves a lot of costs on our end and on the agency's end. We can do in person if the relationship allows it. You know, if it is an agency of a decent size that does want to be in person, we need to get hands-on in terms of, you know, looking at their current systems and things like that. But first, what we always do right off the bat is, before we even send a questionnaire, a really deep conversation about the agency, we always sign a mutual NDA. That is just to protect the agency specifically, so that they can feel comfortable talking to us about the kind of sensitive nature of some of their stuff, like how much premium do you have, how much revenue do you have, you know, all their marketing tactics and stuff, because we don't want that getting out. That's their own private thing. We're just there to help them individually. So we do the NDA, they sign that, we keep that on file, and then we start the questionnaire process. So they fill out a really basic questionnaire, like what's your split between commercial and personal lines? What's your current AMS system? Are you a part of an aggregator? Are you a franchise of a bigger brokerage? Very simple questions that are more demographic in nature, to kind of get the more physical, tangible, hey, what's your agency like? Then after we get that, then we have an actual Zoom meeting where we will be way more in depth with, like what I said earlier. Hey, what is your daily processes look like? What's the really big struggle in your agency? What does your year over year revenue look like? Do you have high turnover in your employee count? Do you, what's your loss ratio look like? Things like that are way more in depth to find those issues. And then from there, that's when we start to like formulate our recommendation proposal for that.
Yeah, perfect. So you come back to me with a proposal of what we should implement, and I'm guessing we could stop there and try to do it ourselves, or kind of engage you for the next stage, or are we committing to the whole thing from the beginning?
Yeah, so we have multiple options available. So we can just kind of cut it off right there, and then you can take it and run with it however you want. That is obviously the cheapest option, because there is nothing on the back end for us to do. But if you want to say, hey, I understand that I can't just go out, just going out to get these things is not going to be very beneficial, then you can say, okay, let's work with AgentsTech in terms of all the rest of the steps of the process. And that will be on a monthly retainer, because we do act like a combination of a business and tech consultant. So, it is beneficial for you to have us for multiple months, because it does take a while to get that stuff. So we have on our retainer, it's a 4-month minimum, because that's what we've researched, that it would take time for you to really get in the groove of, okay, we got these Insurtechs onboarded and we're actively using them. I mean, in reality, let's just say we recommend 3 or 4 Insurtech companies for you to use, and you say, yeah, let's do all 4 of them, then it would take about a month just to get onboarded with all those companies, right? Because they have to come in, depending on how difficult it is to implement within your current systems, they'd have to do that. The next month is going to be more of a strategy, like, hey, now it's strategy and training kind of deal. And then after that, month 2, month 3, and 4 is really okay. Let's iron out the kinks of all their processes. Let's get some training, multiple trainings in place of all of the tech, and then by then they can decide, hey, I think we're good. Thank you so much for your services. Or we do have some people that are on a monthly retainer that just call us, and we're on call for them, saying, hey, we need to do another training, or hey, Caden, I have another issue that just came up in terms of this aspect of my business. Can you help me with figuring out what we can do to figure that out? And sometimes the problem that they have doesn't need to be solved by technology. It needs to be solved by solid business processes. And that's where we can kind of determine, hey, before you go spend 300 or 400 a month on something, actually, all you need to do is this, this, and this, and you should be good to go. So that's kind of that process.
I love the holistic approach.
Yeah.
You mentioned that sometimes the problem, or you mentioned one of the questions you guys ask is retention, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming sometimes the problem is we're not retaining people. So and that's my world. So I'm super curious on that. So when you're running into retention problems, what is generally causing those? Or is it truly like no 2 unhappy agencies are unhappy in the same way?
Yeah, from what we've seen, and this is something that I've seen even before AgentsTech, is that this perception of the insurance industry is really, and you know this, is preventing a lot of young talent from coming in the industry. I mean, if you could tell someone, like tell people the commission rates that you can make and how satisfying it is as an insurance agent to be an insurance agent, a lot of people would probably change their mind on insurance. Like, people always think, man, insurance, that State Farm agent down the street, no, nothing bad against State Farm, but that's just they're the most local insurance agent. Oh man, all they do is home and auto all day. That's so boring. I don't want to do that. It's like, well, actually, you could go work for a commercial only insurance brokerage and go make massive sometimes $1 million deals that pay massive, like, commissions that people like in massive real estate markets
So
make.
much more interesting too.
Yeah, so much more interesting, and you really are helping being the asset financial protection portion of massive companies. And then you can say, pick an industry that you like, and you can go do insurance in that. Like for me, I love cars, love them to death. I have my 4Runner TRD Pro right outside. And our agency does really a niche market in auto service and body shops all across Texas and all across the US. So I think that's a big issue when it comes to finding, employee retention, is that a lot of these agents, because they're stuck in kind of maybe an older way of thinking, or they're kind of afraid of, hey, I know all this Insurtech is necessary, but I'm kind of scared. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to implement it. So I'm just going to stick with what I know how to do. That's a really big turnoff for majority of younger talent, that really, really good sales insurance talent. They're just like, man, I could go work for Marsh, or I could go work for Gallagher, and they got everything rolling up there, and they probably are doing fantastic. Now, I'm not going to go work for this guy that's works for a smaller agency. So I think that's the thing. I think it's just a turn off of like, hey, that the way that small insurance brokerage ABC works just doesn't really appeal to me. It looks very boring. So I think that's it. It's just kind of lack of technology and a boring atmosphere.
So does the same apply for service side talent, CSRs and account managers, or are we losing them for different reasons?
I think for service specifically, they tend to be paid a little bit less than agents, obviously, because most of them don't. Yeah, a majority of them do.
Traditional agency.
Yeah, and traditionally they tend to be paid less. They don't tend to be paid as much commission on that. I think that thing it's just a money thing, because I think they realize, oh, I could I could go to a bigger firm, a little bit of a bigger firm, and make more money. I could go to, someone that does like mid-market only and make probably a lot more money. Or I could go to a big name brokerage and make way more money.
Well, and nowadays, if I'm commuting 30 minutes for a really old-fashioned insurance agency,
Yeah.
my skill set now in the remote world, I can work for a large brokerage out of a bigger city with higher cost of living, for whom I am very cheap and be remote. It is, and have better technology, better, it's yeah, it's very, 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 very tempting for sure.
Yeah.
So implementation, you can babysit it if we need you to. Basically, is the note that
Yeah.
you didn't say babysit. That's my word, but basically, like, you can do everything from sit on the call with the Insurtechs we're considering to actually help us get the thing running. The training piece I found really interesting. So in my recruiting shop, a lot of what we do is, I would say, probably 20% of what we do is customer success people for Insurtechs. So I've learned a lot about that space. Uh, so Insurtechs do invest in that, but yeah, it's not revenue generating, and they're not cheap, because you need somebody
No.
to understand both the technology and the world that the client lives in. Otherwise, they're not going to successfully help the client. But yeah, a lot of their job is weaning the client off of having to call us, right? Getting them to the point where they're self-serving kind of thing, and they're no
Mhm.
longer an expense. So basically, bringing you guys to train just seems to me like it allows much more customized training, uh much more one-on-one training, much more identifying what is it that's not sticking, and with whom and for what reason. I love when you talk about how, for this guy's not using it because of pride, this guy's not using it because doesn't understand it, or it doesn't see the value, right? There's no buy-in. Like, yeah, the customer success people at an Insurtech can't identify that. They're too busy
Yeah.
to identify that, and it's just a different model, right? I'm paying you guys, so I am revenue generating for you, so you have the time to really figure this out for me. If I need more help, then I get off the shelf from wherever I bought the system from. So I love that somebody's doing this. I was not aware that somebody was doing this, and really I should have, from the very beginning. I told you this when we've chatted before, which we didn't record, but this is deeply needed. Like, agencies wake up to the fact that they're sitting on a declining asset, and that they have to invest in people, processes, and technology. It's hard to get to that, to accepting that, and then you look over the horizon, you're like, okay, let's bring in some technology, and there's like 2,000 options, right? It
Yeah.
is way overwhelming. Like, I've got an agency to run here, I'm not a technology person. So having options to do this is fantastic. So I always ask about the pricing model. You did mention that the first 3 months is a retainer. In general, is it a certain number of hours that I'm buying, basically at an agreed upon rate?
No, it is an on-call process. If you want to maintain the retainer for the rest of your company's history, we will be on call for you for whatever questions that you have. The first 4 months, we are really hands-on.
Mhm.
That minimum contract of the 4 months to get everything rolling. That's not a thing of like saying, hey, we want to make sure you stay on for 4 months to make sure we get paid and that it's worth our money. No, it's simply, this is how long we've seen it
It won't be
takes to
successful,
get
yeah.
everything. Yeah, if you come into our agency, say, hey, I want this done in 1 month, I want to say, hey, we're probably not a good fit for you, because if you're not willing to see that this is a long-term play rather than a short-term immediate play, you're probably not going to see really good results in your agency over time at all. And we want to make sure that when we're coming into your agency, you see a lift in one of those three things: increase revenue, increase efficiency, or decrease in cost. And we want to be able to show you on paper, because you did business with us and because we recommended company A, B, and C, you had an increase or a decrease in those three important KPIs, if you want to say. So with the pricing model, that's what we just thought was like, okay, this is going to be an effective model. After the 4 months, that retainer, that it becomes month to month after that. And then also the month to month price is based off of the amount of employees that you have, because then we're only basing that on the amount of training that we have to do. So, there's a different price from 2 to 5 employees, or 6 to 10, and then 11 to 30. And then if you have 30 plus employees, it's all a customized pricing model, because that would be an account that we would say, hey, we may want to fly out to wherever you're at and have like an in-person, hey, let's really do this like in your conference room or whatever it may be. So that's kind of a little bit about the pricing model.
Perfect. Okay. So you talked about 25 to 30% year over year growth in your own agency, after bringing in 28, 29 Insurtechs. What kind of results are the clients seeing? Like any great success stories? You can share company names, you don't have to, but any great success stories?
Yeah, and I will say our NDA is pretty, I'm just going to not say company names because it's pretty stringent. But what we've seen is a couple of people that, when kind of in your aspect of the world of employees, in recruiting, a couple of employees were able to capture more producers because of the technology that was available, that actually came from larger brokerages, that they didn't like the work-life balance. They were having to work 70, 80 hours a week, to those smaller agencies where maybe they didn't make a lot, the same amount of money that they did at the larger brokerage, but they were able to have still work 40, maybe 45, 50 hours a week, go home to their wife and kids, things like that.
Without giving up the tools.
Exactly. Yeah. We've seen, especially with our lead generation sources that we have available in terms of small business, we've seen massive increases in leads, to the point where some people that do, obviously the leads, you pay per lead. That's how all lead generation companies work. They've had to hire more people to handle those leads because there's so many coming in that are quality leads. Another little side bit about that is a lot of people love to work with us, especially with those lead gen companies and with all of our tech companies that we have partnered, that are partners with, that we can recommend. Is we've been through every single one personally within our agency. So we've sat on the demos. I'm not just, like, say you have something that's like, hey, I have this problem. I'm not just going to go on Google real quick and say, search for problem to fix insurance agency, whatever it may be. It's like, no, I already know, I've already talked to these people. And especially the ones that we have onboarded in our agency, we know how they work. Like we know the ins and outs. Is this beneficial or is it not? We've had some Insurtech companies that we've had on board within our agency that we did not have a good relationship with. They did not prove well with what we needed them to do. And some of them were just flat out lies, like they kind of like a bait and switch, which that's a good thing for us. And that's a big value prop, is that we know these companies and we vetted every single one of them. So for that, and then in terms of the success within the agencies, we've seen increased revenue. We've seen people, and this is a big thing that our agency has done with all these Insurtechs onboarding, is they're able to get more work done with less people. So with the biggest expense in any company, no matter which company it is payroll, right? That is one of the largest expenses. So when these people implement the technologies, it helps increase their efficiency. It helps decrease the cost of having to have payroll, more employees to do more things. And it also decreases the time at which one activity for an employee takes, so that at the end of the year, you can see an increase in your bottom line, sometimes massive, sometimes 20-30% increase, because they said, oh, I had 3 employees doing this and this, And now I can only actually have one of them do it because they have this technology that helps them and saves them a ton of time.
All right. Right. Kind of the final question. So the other side of the coin, any listener that's an Insurtech serving agencies,
Mhm.
and basically they want to get on your radar, they want to find ways to partner with you, make sure that you fully understand what they do, and make sure that you know how to train clients on how to use it. How do you partner with Insurtechs that want to partner with you?
Yeah, so we have a pretty stringent process on how we do it. I will, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn's probably, I think, below in this, and we can just start a conversation, get on a couple Zoom calls. We go through a pretty stringent vetting process of, is this going to be valuable for our clients? So, for example, we do majority of our work with PNC. If I have someone that's a life or health based insurtech that's going to reach out to me, I may say, maybe we can let's put in our back pocket for when we get more life and health based agencies that want our services. If it's more of a, hey, this is more focused on like MGAs or carriers, I can tell right off the bat, like, hey, I don't think this is going to be a good fit for us. But yeah, we go through the process. It does take about 2 to 3 weeks to vet, because we really want to say, okay, let's get a demo of the actual Insurtech. Let's get some customer testimonials to see if what they're thinking, and we kind of go from there to see. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think that is all. This is very cool stuff. I'm glad somebody's doing it, because there's a massive need for
Yeah.
agencies to figure this out, and many don't have the in-house talent to do it. So it's a great service you're doing for the industry. Look forward to see you guys continue to grow. Hopefully, run into you at some of the conferences this fall or next spring. Thank you so much for making time to chat with me this Friday.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.